Welcome to Literary Libations with Librarians, the December holiday edition. We're glad that you've joined us, and we are going to be sharing some of our favorite books that we have been reading. And as we share titles, they will appear on the screen, or if you're just listening, you can just talk to your local librarian about how to get your hands on them. If you want to do it on your own, you can go straight to our catalog, and that web address is on your screen now. The quickest way is, like I said, just call your local librarian and they'll be more than happy to assist you. You'll see that some of the books are available digitally through one of our apps that we offer to the public. Those apps are at no cost, and there is Libby, which provides downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, and an astounding assortment of magazines. And then there's also Hoopla, which provides downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, and also movies, music, and graphic novels. And because it is the holiday season, I need to mention that if you go to Hoopla, there is now a binge pass for Hallmark holiday movies that is available on there. And you can watch all the Hallmark holiday movies that you possibly can cram into 7 days using that pass. And then if you're like, might want to do that again, I'm pretty sure you can check it out again. So take advantage of these resources that are out there. And I am Jennifer Graneski, and I am the Dundee Area Supervisor. And to kick us off, since it's the holiday season, we're going to talk about books that we might gift to somebody during the holiday season. And I forgot both of the books that I was going to talk about at home, because I was going to hold them up and have a lovely presentation. And it's probably good that I forgot the first one, because it's for select people with particular tastes. And that book is Grady Hendrix's Paperbacks from Hell. And if you love horror, it's amazing. It is a collection of pulp horror novels from the 70s until about the 80s. And it's amazing. And he gives an overview of the plot of every one. And I just want you to know that in one of the books, Gestapo-cons appear. That's right, Gestapo leprechauns. Is your life complete without knowing about this book? No, probably not. So not for everyone, but for some people, the perfect gift. Like me.
I love Grady Hendrix, and I read my best friend's Exorcism, which I was going to talk about, but then decided not to. I also read How to Sell a Haunted House. He is phenomenal. Love him.
How to Sell a Haunted House was one of my favorite books this whole year. It's fabulous. But, so that book's not for everyone, but also just for Kelly and anybody else. He does also do an email newsletter where he talks about different novels from the 80s. Again, not for everyone, but very funny. But if you need a book for everyone, Nanny Piggins. Nanny Piggins is where it's at, friends. This is an 8-book series, and our library catalog does the perfect job of describing Nanny Piggins. Here you go. When Mr. Green, a stingy widower with 3 children he cannot be bothered with, decides to find a nanny for his children, he winds up hiring a glamorous ex-circus pig who knows nothing about children, but a lot about chocolate. Do you not want to just run out and pick this book up? I love Nanny Piggins. There's 8 books in this series. It's great for all ages. If you want me to come over and read it to you, I will, because I've read all of them aloud to my child a couple of times. And I will tell you, my teenager at 15 still loves Nanny Piggins. She's amazing. My Nanny Piggins sounds like a tired, rundown Mary Poppins. Hey, look at the Fred. Let's go have some chocolate cake. I love my Nanny Piggins. I'll do it anytime. Won't even cost you anything. So those are the books that I would gift to anybody. Anybody. You're going to love them. All right, now I'm done talking. Thanks, everybody, for coming to my TED Talk. And also with us this time is Jessica Otto, who is our head of collections. And what book or books would you gift this holiday season, Jessica?
So well, I probably might not be gifting any books this holiday season, but if I had to, when I thought about it, I think that both of the books I'm going to talk about today would be ideal gift books. The first one, Elwood's Blues, for like fans of blues music, absolutely, or fans of the Blues Brothers. And the second one, Secrets of the Force, absolutely, for a Star Wars fan. If you have a Star Wars fan in your life, and I kind of feel like the Star Wars fandom is so big that like it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Everybody knows a Star Wars fan, either a family member, a friend, or a coworker. I think it would be an excellent Christmas book. Just make sure that they've seen all the Star Wars stuff first, because there might be spoilers. So that way you don't ruin anything for anybody. But yeah, I think they would both be okay for that.
Excellent. We will look forward to those books when you talk about them. Thank you, Jessica. Also with us is Kelly Beister, who is our branch manager at the South Rockwood branch. And what would you gift this holiday season, Kelly?
Well, I would gift one of my favorite picture books that I like to read out loud whenever I can, and it's called Extra Yarn by Mac Barnett and John Klassen. And it's about a little girl who finds a box, and inside the box is yarn, and so she just starts knitting sweaters for people and things that don't even need sweaters, like trees and houses. And there's an archduke who loves fashion, who hears about the unlimited box of yarn and offers her up to $10 million for it. And she says, no, I'm not giving it to you. So he breaks into her house, steals it, takes it back to his castle, and the box is empty. So he curses her and with his family curse, and she'll never be happy again. And he throws the box out the window, and it finds its way back to the girl, and it turns out the curse did not work, and she was happy, and she continued making sweaters for things that didn't need sweaters.
That sounds like the perfect holiday book. Warm and cozy and all about giving. And I can see Mandy with her collection of yarns behind her going, I'm going to get that book right now.
I clearly need that book.
And that brings us to our final panelist this time around, and that is Mandy Draganic, who is one of our catalogers here at the library system. And what would you gift this holiday season, Mandy?
I will probably gift What to Do with a Problem by Kobe Yamada. It's one of my very favorite kids books. It's one of my favorite kids books that like really adults can get a lot out of as well. It's just about a little kid who has this problem, and he doesn't want to deal with it, and so it grows bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it's just too much and it's overwhelming. And then he realizes he can tackle this problem, and his whole world is changed. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful storybook with a great message. I also will probably be gifting Unoffendable by Brant Hansen, maybe not at Christmas, but throughout the year. It is really kind of a soul-searching kind of book. And the question he poses is, what if you decided not to be offended? And how that changes how you view people, how you view circumstances and situations. And I think I'm going to be giving that one away a lot throughout the next year.
Excellent. That sounds interesting. Thank you, Mandy. And now I'm going to ask Jessica if she will kick us off sharing what she's been reading and enjoying and possibly would make for great gifts.
Absolutely. So my first title is Elwood's Blues, Interviews with the Blues Legends and Stars by Dan Aykroyd and Ben Manila. So this book contains interviews that originally aired on the House of Blues radio hour. So for those who might not be familiar with the House of Blues radio hour, this was a weekly syndicated radio program that ran from 1993 to 2017. And it was actually rebranded as Elwood's Bluesmobile, I think in 2012 or around there. So the show was hosted weekly by Dan Aykroyd, but he didn't host as Dan Aykroyd. He hosted in character as Elwood Blues, which is, of course, a role that he originated on Saturday Night Live, and he also portrayed in the Blues Brothers movie. So essentially the book, the fun twist in this book that I loved is that we have a fictional character interviewing real life individuals, which the results were so much fun, and it made for one of the most original reads that I had this year. So this book is divided into 3 main sections. The first is Blues Legends, which includes interviews with some of the most famous blues musicians, such as Ray Charles, John Lee Hooker, and Junior Wells. The next section is Rock Royalty, which includes interviews with artists and that are more commonly associated with rock music, such as Robert Plant and Carlos Santana, and also rock groups like Aerosmith and ZZ Top. And in that section, these rock artists, they talk about the impact that blues music and specific blues artists had on their lives and their careers. And the third section is Keepers of the Flame, which includes interviews with contemporary blues artists such as Blues Traveler, Keb Mo, and Susan Tadashi. And then also sprinkled throughout the whole book are some one-page comedy sketches called Elwood on the Air that sort of has a Saturday Night Live vibe to it. In fact, one of the sketches, my favorite, is a Christmas themed sketch that brought back another beloved Aykroyd SNL character, Irvin Mainway, who once again tries to sell us some more of his sketchy and potentially dangerous Christmas items. So, be on the lookout for that. So as a fan of blues music, as well as the Blues Brothers, I literally listen to their CDs on repeat in my car all the time. I had so much fun reading this book. All the interviews are only around 3 to 5 pages each, which made it for a very quick read. And I absolutely loved this format of Aykroyd in character as Elwood interviewing the blues musicians. I kind of feel like we could apply this format to other topics. Like we could have a book where we would have like Harrison Ford in character as Indiana Jones interviewing real life archaeologists. Like how fun would that be? So I could really get behind this format. So my absolute favorite part of this book is that it actually has a slight Monroe County Library System connection. So as you know, MCLS is a huge fan of the blues, and we have held an annual Black History Month Blues Series since 1988. So the book mentions some of the blues artists that have appeared at the MCLS Blues Series, including Willie Dixon, who appeared in 1990, Robert Lockwood Jr., who appeared in 1999, and Steady Rollin' Bob Margolin, who appeared on 5 occasions in 95, 2005, 2012, 2017, and 2018. And the book also features a blurb on the back cover from Gay Adegbalola, who has appeared numerous times at our Blues Series, either as both a solo artist or as a member of Sapphire, the Uppity Blues Women. And I believe we even have a signed photograph of her in our programming room at the Ellis Library and Reference Center. And so I love her quote on the back, which reads, "Here are their own words, as pure and honest as the music they create." So I highly recommend this one to fans of blues music and the Blues Brothers. And I also recommend it for if you are a fan of our Blues Series. It's hard to believe that it's only like 2 months before we'll be looking at another Blues Series event. So this would be a great time to check out a copy of Elwood's Blues and get caught up on all your blues history before the big event.
Nice.
So my second title is a must-read for all Star Wars fans. Secrets of the Force, the complete, uncensored, unauthorized oral history of Star Wars takes us on a 550-page behind-the-scenes journey through the making of the Star Wars universe, from the earliest drafts of A New Hope to the release of the live-action streaming series of today, all told in the words of the cast, the crew, and the many other contributors who have come together over the years to keep the Star Wars magic alive. So this book is divided into 4 parts. The first part explores George Lucas's films from before Star Wars, such as THX 1138 and American Graffiti. And it talks about how his experiences from making those films influenced the production of Star Wars. And so the second part focuses on the original trilogy films, which include A New Hope from '77, Empire Strikes Back from 1980, and Return of the Jedi in 1983. One of the most fascinating things about those chapters is, for me, was learning the impact that Star Wars has had on filmmaking in general, and not just in the Star Wars universe, in the way that Lucas, he invested a lot of the money he made from the films and the merchandising back into engineering and innovating new techniques in filmmaking in areas like improving visual effects, filming in high definition digital instead of on regular film, and creating the THX sound system, which has become like the standard for movie theaters and home theaters today. So although these innovations were created specifically for Star Wars, they have ultimately had a huge impact on filmmaking in general. So even if you aren't a Star Wars fan per se, if you're a fan of movies in general, these original trilogy chapters are a fascinating read on how Star Wars has impacted all filmmaking as we know it. So I'm excited to say that this part of the book also includes a chapter on, wait for it, the Star Wars Holiday Special, which has the best chapter name in the entire book, To Be or Not to Be, with B spelled B-E-A, because B. Arthur had a role in the Star Wars Holiday Special. So I really enjoyed that, that fun connection. There is also a chapter in part 2 devoted to the ways that Star Wars carried on after the original trilogy, including the release of these novels, the Star Wars novels, which tell the story of Luke, Leia, and Han after the events of Return of the Jedi. So the first novel sanctioned by Lucasfilm was the massively successful 1991 Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn, which was a #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. It was followed by 2 other books in what is now known as the Thrawn trilogy. And since then, the Star Wars novel, the world has just exploded. We now have like hundreds, like I think it's literally like 400 Star Wars novels that have been published since then. And I'm pleased to say that many of them are available through your Monroe County Library System. So then we move on to part 3, which is all about the prequel trilogy, which started with Phantom Menace in '99, and then Attack of the Clones in 2002, and Revenge of the Sith in 2005. And then part 4 starts out discussing George Lucas's decision to sell Lucasfilm to Disney in 2012, which led to Disney moving forward with production of what we know as the sequel trilogy of The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, excuse me. And then it also mentions the 2 standalone films, Rogue One and Solo, which were released in 2016 and 2018. And part 4 also focuses on the transition of Star Wars from the big screen to the small screen. Now, of course, I'm sure many of us remember the Ewoks made for TV movies back in the day with Wilford Brimley, at least in one of them. But it really wasn't until the animated Star Wars Clone Wars series in 2003 that Star Wars started to find success in television, which additionally led to more Star Wars animated series. There was Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars Resistance. And then, of course, in the last few years, Disney has found like phenomenal success with live action streaming series, starting with The Mandalorian in 2019. And now we just have shows on so many of the favorite characters, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Boba Fett, Cassian Andor, and Ahsoka Tano. And I really think these shows are kind of the best thing that's sort of come out of the Disney acquisition. So with Disney at the helm, I'm sure that the sky is the limit to where Star Wars will be going. And while I may not always like all the aspects of their treatment of Star Wars, I am excited to see what new Star Wars stories are out there waiting to be told. So as a huge Star Wars fan, I will admit I went into this very arrogant and just thinking I knew everything there was to know about the making of Star Wars. And I quickly learned that I knew absolutely nothing about the making of Star Wars. I was just completely absorbed by this book from the very first page. When I was reading it, I was kind of like Johnny Five from Short Circuit, like input. I need more input. Give me more input. So if you're a Star Wars fan, check out a copy of this book. You will absolutely learn something new. And even if you haven't seen any of the Star Wars films, if you're a fan of movies in general, I still recommend this just because of the impact that's the creation of Star Wars has had on the film industry in general. But fair warning, there is a lot of spoilers in this book. So if you go into it, if you're planning on watching the movies, you might want to watch them first. Otherwise, you might learn some things, So that's my second title. Thank you. And may the force be with you all this holiday season.
Excellent. Thank you, Jessica. That sounds amazing. If you're a Star Wars fan, that sounds amazing because that covers a lot of territory. So that's pretty, yes. I'll just keep using the word amazing because I can't think of anything else, but there we go. All right. I am going to ask Kelly to share what she's been reading lately.
I was really hoping that I was going to have a Christmas cheery book lined up for all of our friends, but that's not me. For everyone that knows me, I am a hardcore, like a mystery girl, but also really true crime. So sorry, these are going to be kind of depressing. We'll start with House of Hollow. We read this for our Not So YA book club, and it was one of my favorite books this year that we read besides The Firekeeper's Daughter, which, I mean, amazing. But anyways, House of Hollow. First of all, I've come to terms with my ADD, and if things do not catch me and within like the first 3 chapters, I'm out. So luckily, these 2 books, if you have that same problem, are going to catch you and they're going to make you keep going, and they will both keep your attention, which is why I love them so much. House of Hollow, the first scene is the whole book is told from Iris Hollow's point of view. She's one of 3 sisters, and she starts out the story by saying she always knew that her and her sisters were weird and different. Specifically, she has a core memory of a woman climbing into her window when she was a child and sniffing her hair, and her sister coming in and attacking the woman and subduing her with a kiss. Yeah, it's weird. So as you read, the reader finds out the 3 sisters disappeared one night in Scotland, just on a suburban street in front of their parents. They were on their way home from a New Year's celebration, and they returned a month later with absolutely no memory of what happened to them. And then there are odd, eerie occurrences that follow them in their wake, and they're changing. First, their dark hair turns white, then their blue eyes slowly turn black. They have insatiable appetites, but they never gain weight. And then people find them disturbingly intoxicating, unbearably beautiful, and inexplicably dangerous. So as the girls grow older, and they are back in their homes and they're trying to, transition into life, their father is like, these are not my daughters. Something happened to my daughters. You are not my daughters. He goes mad thinking that these are not his daughters and dies by suicide. And as you are reading the story, you start putting the pieces together of what has truly happened with the girls. You take trips into different realms of dimension, and things start coming together, and things happen that you're like, wait, what? Like, it is insane, the journey that this book takes you and breaks down the mystery of what happened to these 3 girls. So 10 years after their disappearance, things start happening. Iris's older sister, Gray, becomes famous. She's a fashion designer, and she goes missing, and that's when the story kind of takes place of them trying to find out what happened to Gray, the 2 sisters. But what happens and how it unravels is absolutely bonkers. And the things that people that are close to them knew, it is mind-boggling. So this was kind of like, it was borderline horror, realist, magical kind of thing. Like, it was very believable, and it's shocking. It just was amazing. So if you want a creepy, magical, shocking book, House of Hollow. The second one, I just happened to stumble on one day. I found it on Amazon Kindle e-reader. We have it paperback, but it's called The Quarry Girls by Jess Lowry. And what really grabbed onto me, this is a true crime book. and I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and I know that people are like, well, that's a red flag, but let me explain something. I feel like true crime is so fascinating for a lot of people, but especially for empathetic people, because for me, I cannot wrap my head around the fact that one human can do something so absolutely devastating and terrible to another human being. It boggles my mind. And so I'm always really, I don't want to say fascinated, but like just boggled by what other human beings will do. So Jess Lowry's Quarry Girls is based on true Minnesota crimes. And Jess Lowry opens the book by stating that fact. And I was like, okay, sister, we're on the same page here. And that also makes me feel better about my obsession with crime and murder. Thank you. So the book is around a small Minnesota town, one that's very, very close. It's a town that was built around a manufacturing situation. And what's really cool about this town is all of the houses are connected by tunnels. So there's these underground tunnels that go into people's houses. And again, this is the 70s. So kids were just running amok in these tunnels. And that was just good fun, right? Because everybody knew everyone. And so, you know, they would have dinner and then they'd be like, okay, I'm heading to the tunnels with my friends. So they're very, very close knit. But one summer, the main characters are teenage girls. Heather is how the story's it's told from her point of view. She's 17 and she's a really good kid. She's got a couple best friends who are real close knit. And things start happening in these tunnels. These two girls, one girl goes missing and then is found dead in the quarry. And then there's another girl who thinks she's kind of telling Heather, like, I think I know what happened to our friend, but I can't really tell you because it's a secret and I've seen some things. And then she goes missing. And so it's up to Heather and her other friend. I can't think of his name. I hate that when I read the books and then I don't remember their names. But anyways, they end up solving the case and it goes within like the innards of the city in the tunnels. It was very creepy, especially since it's based on real, true disappearing crimes in Minnesota of girls. But when she finds out what happens, it's like it turns her world upside down. It's definitely a coming of age. And you know, it's the unfortunate tale of a girl losing her innocence and what really happens in real life. You know, even in a small knit community, bad things can happen. So that was, you know, my other depressing one that I couldn't put down.
Thank you for sharing, Kelly. And of course, we have a variety of tastes for everybody who comes and talks on Literary Libations. So if what you're looking for this holiday season is a fast absorbing crime read, you've got some options now. You know, you don't want to run out of titles that you really enjoy. So thank you. And let's have Mandy share what she's been reading and enjoying lately.
So Mandy's going to follow up probably with maybe something a little more generally Christmassy, right? If you know me, you know that there are three things that I'm a huge sucker for. One is any kind of disaster story movie. I just can't pass them up. They're terrible, but I love them anyway. The second thing is Dr. Seuss, anything and everything Dr. Seuss. And the third thing is a sequel. So when there's a Dr. Seuss sequel, I'm all over it. And I was really surprised because I did not know that this was going to be a thing. It's Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Lost Christmas. And I'm a huge Grinch fan. Like the Grinch is Christmas to me. Like you just can't have Christmas without the Grinch. So when I saw this, I just kind of freaked out because I didn't even know it existed. And I thought, well, maybe other people don't know it exists also, and they have to know. So it's written by Alistair Heim, and he did get all the permissions from the Dr. Seuss estate and all of that necessary stuff. It reads just like the Grinch. Almost, for the adults, almost too much like the Grinch. There are a few points where it really is like, okay, you're trying a little bit too hard to be like the Grinch. But you know what? The kids love it. My grandson loved it and wanted me to read it again. The artwork is just like the Grinch. Like, it's really just the Grinch too, right? The story is Whoville has a tree decorating contest, and the Grinch, who now loves Christmas so very, very much, can't wait to decorate his tree, and he's just sure that his tree will win. And he's excited, and then it comes time for judging, and he's not the winner. And he has a bit of a hard time with that. But in very Grinch-like fashion, things come around and they work out for the best. I thought I might read just the first couple of pages just so you can hear how it's different and the same. The cave on Mount Crumpet was home to the Grinch, who sprung from his cave just enough, plus 1 inch, to stare down at Whoville from high up above it. Tomorrow was Christmas, and thinking thereof it, my heart, grinned the Grinch, has grown to quite love it. The Grinch had been patiently waiting all year to celebrate Christmas and bring the Who's cheer, and to show every Who he was different now. I've changed, thought the Grinch, and I'll prove it. But how? So it's still very much the Grinch, but with a little bit of a twist. And it's just really cute. And go get it. That's all I have to say. My second book is a little more grown up, a little less fun. But, you know, with Christmas also comes New Year's. With New Year's comes the want to make resolutions, right? To do things differently maybe next year. And I came across this book accidentally. It's called Just One Thing, How Simple Changes Can Transform Your Life. And he basically goes through, by Dr. Michael Mosley, he basically goes through and very briefly explains teeny tiny, seemingly insignificant changes that you can make in your day. And he gives you a little quick bit of science. He's talked with some experts. He did all the road tests, field tests, right? And there's a few cases where he usually has like some celebrity, pop-ins that they've done this. And it's just really kind of cool to think what a difference just one little thing can make. And he goes through a wide range of examples. And I just lost my page here. Things like changing when you eat, drinking more water, drinking coffee, standing on one leg, eating an apple a day, getting some sun, going for a walk, thinking yourself stronger, thinking with positive thoughts, learning something new, taking up dancing, taking a hot bath, like really simple, fun, weird things that you can do differently, and just doing one of them a day, and then maybe you add on another later, but just little easy changes that you can make throughout the year that might make a big difference for you.
I clearly need to incorporate more dancing into my life.
I think we all probably
sure all the library patrons would appreciate it.
You guys my mini movers on Thursday mornings at 11 o'clock. Just
there you go.
Thanks.
I'm sure it wouldn't be weird at all that a grown woman with no child.
Definitely not. We're an inclusive bunch here. We welcome all ages, everyone. So you are welcome. 100%, everyone.
And I'll just say, listen, a book told me to.
Right.
Had to do what the book said.
It's part of my new plan and my new person.
That's right.
He was a doctor. I mean, you have to do what the doctor says, right?
It's science.
It's science. All right. Thank you so much, Mandy. And for me, the books that I have been reading, the first one is probably closer to my more typical reads, and that is West Heart Kill by Dan McDormand. And it has been a year for what I have started to term meta mysteries, where they are mysteries almost about the mystery genre, where they either make jokes or they start unpacking the various mystery tropes that you expect. A locked room mystery, The Butler did it. All of those things that you expect, these books actually talk about during the mystery itself. So some of those, the other ones that I've read this year are Rupert Holmes's Murder Your Employer, which was fabulous. And then Benjamin Stevens's Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. 2 thumbs up for that one. This one is the third one like that I've read this year. This one doesn't have the same wit and humor as those two books. This one takes itself a little bit more seriously. But the main mystery is set at West Hart Country Club compound. It's the 1970s. These really wealthy people go out to their property where they each have a cabin, which is more like a mansion. And they all get together and they're coming together for the 4th of July. And, you know, it's the 70s, and not that everybody in the 70s did this, but apparently they do in movies and books, but they're all sleeping with each other's husbands and wives, and, you know, stuff's going on. Everybody's ignoring the children. So it's 1976, and Adam McCannis, who is a private detective, has been invited to West Hart, and we don't know as the reader exactly why he's there. You know he's a private detective, you know he's been invited by somebody, but you don't know who. And of course, somebody gets murdered. Wouldn't be a murder mystery without a murder. Somebody gets murdered. And, you know, things progress through there as Adam attempts to figure out who it is killed the person that's murdered. What makes this one a meta mystery, and if you are not into experimental fiction, this is probably not the book for you. When I looked at the other reviews on Goodreads, it was very mixed. It was kind of like, I hated this book. And then there were other people like me who are like, oh, I found it really interesting. So I think it depends on how you deal with the experimental part, because he will be writing in third person. Adam went to the kitchen. Adam saw Mary there. Third person, he, she there. And he will switch like on a paragraph to talking in second person, which is you. And it's almost like you as the reader are now somehow magically in the room with what is happening. And so you'll notice Adam going to the kitchen to talk to Mary. You're concerned about this. And then there are other parts of the book where it will switch to first person, and then the entire book ends with an interview. So I thought it was fascinating. He manages to get a lot of history of the mystery genre in there. You get a very standard mystery as well. The mystery's well done. It is fair, but there's no big twists or anything. It's closer to Agatha Christie than to like Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl. So you get all of that, but you get this history of mystery, and you get this unique format. I really enjoyed it. But I do think you kind of have to go in knowing it's going to be a little weird. And if it's not your cup of tea, that's okay. Pick up a different book. But if you kind of really love mysteries and you like unpacking what makes a good mystery, I think you would find this one interesting. So West Hart Hill by Dan McDormand. And then my other title is sometimes you just get the right book at the right time with the right feel. And this book happened to be that for me. As we all know, if you've listened to this for any amount of time, I tend to be a horror girl. And The Wishing Game is the exact opposite of horror. It is a warm hug of a book. And if you need a warm hug of a book, you should pick it up. Plus, it has all the things that if I hear that these are in a book, I'm probably not going to be able to stop myself from picking it up. The only thing this one didn't have that's normally catnip for me is a boarding school. There's boarding school, I'm probably going to pick it up. This book doesn't have that, but it did have a competition. I don't know what it is, but if I read a book about a competition, it doesn't really matter. It can be Scrabble. It can be a boating competition. I love the boys on the boat. It can be a Hunger Games like competition. Doesn't matter. There's competition. Automatically, I know I'm going to keep turning the pages because I want to know who wins. So it had a competition. It has puzzles, and I love a good puzzle to try and solve. And it has what I'm calling a children's literary fantasy world in it. So it has a world like Narnia or Hogwarts or Wonderland in it. This one happens to be a made-up one called Clockwork Island, and it's based on a series of over 70 books that Jack Masterson has written. These are hugely popular, but he hasn't written a new book for over 6 years. And so children and adults around the world who have grown up with these books are wondering what's going on. Well, Jack Masterson decides to have a competition where he lives, where he has recreated Clockwork Island. And he's invited 4 people to come and participate in this competition. And whoever wins is going to get the handwritten first edition copy of the next book in the Clockwork Island series. And so we go from that, and then we meet Lucy. And Lucy is a struggling kindergarten aide living in California. And if you are either a kindergarten aide or have ever lived in California, you know you are not making ends meet. And Lucy's not. She's got like 5 roommates. She doesn't have a car. She's struggling. But 2 years ago in her kindergarten class, she met Christopher, who lost his parents. And more than anything in the world, Lucy wants to foster to adopt Christopher. And she doesn't qualify right now because she doesn't have what's considered a safe home, and she doesn't have transportation, and she doesn't know how she's going to ever have enough money to have either of those. And she is one of the people who is invited to come participate in this competition on Clockwork Island for fans of Jack Masterson's books. And does it end the way you think it's probably going to end? Yeah, mostly. Like I said, it is a hug of a book. But in between there, you get to know Lucy and Christopher and Jack and the other competitors. And it's just a really good book. I kept turning the pages, and by the end, and I am not a crier. And by the end, there were definitely a couple moments where I was like, so happy. And there were a couple of lines in the book that I really loved. In particular, in all of the Clockwork Island books, the kids that go to Clockwork Island always have a wish that they hope will come true. And the man that runs Clockwork Island, the mastermind, helps this wish come true. But before that can happen, they have to face their fears. And so as part of this competition, all the competitors are going to have to face their fears. But Lucy is wondering, and now there's the quote from the book, how could Jack make a group of adults face their fears? It wasn't like they were 10 anymore, afraid of the dark, or afraid of telling the truth to their parents about who broke the antique vase, or afraid of telling their best friend they're sorry. How do you make adults face their fears when being an adult was nothing but waking up every morning with your fears already in your face? That is how it feels as an adult. I was like, oh my goodness, that is truly how it feels as an adult. And I just loved the book. I just loved it. The other line was in the author's note at the end, and she says, this book is for you and all the kids who in dark times find a light shining from the pages of books. Such a warm hug. I know books did that for me as a kid, and this book did it for me as an adult. Is it a book for everyone? No. You might look at it and go, yeah, warm, schmaltzy, predictable. It was the right book for me at the right time. So I highly recommend it. If you want that warm hug of a holiday book, it's not set during the holidays, but you should totally pick up The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. So thank you to everybody who came and talked about the books that you're reading. Thank you to those of you who listened to this. Special shout out to my parents who I know listen every time, and I hope that we have a very Merry Christmas season. And hopefully we will be back in January to share some more books that we've been reading. Thank you. Bye.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.